And hello, good afternoon.
Mm.
Hey, hello, Marianne. Hello, Jason. Thank you for joining us today. I'm George Adams from Valiant Technology, and today we're going to do a great presentation around data protection for modern workplace with our partner from Datto. So I'm going to dive in a little bit about who we are, and then a little bit what we're talking about, and then get moving forward. So, as I said, I'm George Adams from Valiant Technology. I'm one of the president. I'm doing IT for a long time, and what we're, and basically it's Valiant is a managed service provider for small medium businesses, and we do a ton of IT and cloud security. So I'll introduce our next person speaking today is Marianne Dobrovolsky. Marianne is Valiant's training manager, and she's had a variety of roles over the years, from account management. So she really is a really great sense of what the clients need, and they were very and so to really and so she can give you some really good insight. Uh, we also have our special guest Jason, but I'm going to introduce him in a little bit though because you'll get there. He's from our partner Datto. So Marianne, before we get the Datto section of things and our partner, let's set some terms up. What's a modern workplace?
Yeah, so a lot of people hear the modern workplace and they're thinking about, okay, things that are happening in the now. But what's really important is how businesses can leverage modern technology and to improve their productivity, to improve their efficiency, to improve their culture. So if it's going to have a lot of benefits for workers, a lot of benefits for your business, it's really fantastic.
Right.
Um, If you want to learn more specifically about what the modern workplace is, we do have a webinar that we did last month where we really go into it in more detail. We talk about all the benefits, all of the things that you need to look out for, and trends that are going on. But check that out on our YouTube page. It's really fascinating. I really like that information, but don't want to go into it too much right now because we want to focus on data protection. The one thing I will talk about, though, is some of the specifics of today's modern workplace. So it's more than just technology. The biggest thing is using the collaborative environment, the modern tools to work together, be more efficient, and get stuff done while still having added benefits, while adding added benefits to people's culture and people being able to be more flexible. So we see that a lot with the mobile workforce. People can work from home, and you can also recruit people from outside of your specific regional area. There's open lines of communication. How many different chat apps are there? But they really do have their own
Right.
purpose, and they can be utilized to really enhance the communication in your office. Usage of modern tools. So that's using things, what we're going to be focusing on is a lot of this software as a service stuff. The cloud, you've probably just heard of it referred to as a catch-all term, but Office 365, Google Suite, all that stuff. Um, Data usage and smart data usage is actually a really fascinating thing that's going on right now, where a lot of these technologies have a way to assess your data, and you can use that analysis to work more efficiently, work smarter, not harder, and really know what information is important to you and your business with actual data. And then lastly, of course, efficient collaboration. So I think a lot of us have experienced this lately, where we're still very collaborative, maybe even more so with these tools, being able to contact each other, whether you're in the office, whether you're not, all the time, being able to work together and have it be really seamless and really convenient. Things like co-authoring documents and that stuff.
Right. That's great. And it's interesting. So keeping that in mind, one thing that's really we always like to focus is using frameworks. And one of the frameworks that we always refer back to is what we call the CIA Triad, or the three legs of security. And data protection really falls into the availability section. And without availability, all this great modern workplace benefits become unavailable, but you can't use them, you can't utilize them, and you have a lot of fear around being able to work and function as a business. So if you actually, we're not going to go too deep into this CIA triad. We have a great YouTube on that, our security best practices, but just keep in mind that data protection falls into the availability section. So how does this matter in the kind of era of like the cloud, and I have my data up in the Office 365, and we're going to go kind of, I think that our great partner Dad is going to dive deeper into this, but really what it comes down to is shared responsibility. you put stuff in there, it's yours. You're responsible for it. They're not going to back it up. They're going to back it up only to the level of what they agreed to. So you are responsible for what happens. We had this really handy graphic that we put together for one of our other presentations that I think really sums up the different areas of responsibility for the IT or a company. You know, if you have your own private data center, you do everything from the data storage all the way up to stack. But really, we want to focus on software as a service and how, you know, you're paying for that, all the pieces of the stack to be handled, but the data and access. So that's where we want to focus our energy and go a little deeper. So even with that, there's one of the leading causes of downtime is human error. And now human error can be a lot of different things, but you know, it really could be the thing that affects the business the hardest, such as malware, ransomware, accidental deletion, all those sort of things that can lead to businesses not be able to function properly or have access to their data or have a lack of availability. And why this is so critical is that most businesses don't have a plan. One of the statistics we saw, we've seen out in the field is 39% of SMBs, that's small medium businesses, that's businesses under 500 employees, don't have anything more than a napkin sketch of what happens if they, you know, if their main file server was crypto locked, or they lost, or someone accidentally deleted the payroll file. So it really becomes critical that people prepare. So if you kind of follow the numbers, 60% of small businesses will experience a loss, and of those 60%, they will close because they don't have the runway to take the hit of the loss. You know, and the number that we see that constantly comes up over and over again and one of the numbers in Datto was, I'm sorry, excuse me, was the impact. Got ahead of myself there, Marianne. Thank you. I did it again. So what we did, so if you kind of step back for a second, so imagine if you, and the number of days that are being affected is going up 25% in the one quarter. And this sample size from Q3 to Q4 2019, it went up 4 days from 12 to 16. And think about a 25% increase. But I want you to step back even further and say, what would it be like if I didn't have access to my data for 16 days, a half a month, right? Where you couldn't process payroll, you couldn't service your customers, you couldn't answer emails properly. You know, this happens more frequently than we even want to admit. I mean, recently last week or the week before, there was a massive crypto lock ransomware event with Garmin, which was a company not only for watches, but also for avionics and marine applications of GPS. So there's a lot of, and these are big companies that are being affected. And if we're not protecting our final mile, the data, you're going to be, the potential for loss is so high. And now I'll get to my scary number that I want to go over really hard, is $8,000 of average cost per hour of downtime. Now that number is not like just like, hey, you know, you start doing your math, like, okay, well, my payroll isn't that $8,000, but it's really not just payroll, right? It's payroll, it's reputation, it's customer satisfaction. You could lose an opportunity, or you could lose a customer over this. The other thing that matters, I think, and especially in New York, where we are located, there's now a new legislation around and liability where there's going to be fines, and the potential could go up. You know, if you're in Europe, it could be GDPR, it could be California Privacy Act. There's a lot of places where you could expose the business, and you really want to be able to restore the data back quickly, and that can have a real impact. And also, that preparedness is part of those legislation. So not only do you have the business pressure, you also have the legislation. All right. So now that I've really scared you all, and then this did rough stuff, I'm gonna hand you over to Jason, who is a technical channel development manager from Datto, super knowledgeable guy. He's gonna really go through it with you and may give you some answers. So Jason, please take it away.
Thank you, George. Thank you for doing the easy part of scaring everybody, and I can come in like a hero and say, hey, there's a way we can solve this problem together. So yeah, my name is Jason Price, Technical Channel Development Manager at Datto. What I do is I do a ton of webinars, and I reach out to MSPs and their clients and their prospective clients, and I just educate them on what we're seeing out there in the marketplace as it pertains to your data and your security, and making sure that we're doing everything we can together to make sure you guys are safe. We have a ton of different products that we offer at Datto, but today I really want to hone in on the SaaS protection capabilities that we have. We offer what's called our Datto SaaS protection. It's reliable, simple, and secure backup for your O365 and your Google Suite products, right? So all of the underlying different features and functionalities, we can back and secure all of that up, right? And so the big question that people typically have is going to be, but doesn't Microsoft and Google, don't they protect me already, right? You have these billion-dollar companies, right? They're all over the place. They have these products, right? And the products work great. And so there's just an assumption that they have your back in terms of backing up all of your data. But once again, as George mentioned earlier, there's this thing called the shared responsibility model. And to put it simply, is Microsoft or Google Suites will provide the security of the cloud, and the tenant provides security within their cloud, right? And so that means that you need to have a good backup for all of your data, right? And it goes even deeper, right? If you look into the Microsoft's end user agreement, they're actually saying, hey, data retention and deletion, I mean, it can happen, and you need to make sure that you have a third-party product that's able to back this up for you. And it goes on to say Microsoft has no liability for the deletion of customer data or personal data as described in this section, right? So they're saying, hey, unfortunately, if something happens, we're not liable, right? And so that's a hard conversation to have, especially if, let's say, as most of Valiant's partners, have $1 million invoice coming in, and they need to make sure that they do all the checks and balances. And next thing you know, they can't reach your email because, unfortunately, they were compromised. So making sure that that backup is happening in the first place will allow this not to be an issue, essentially. Google, they have the same thing written in a different way, but essentially the same thing. They are not responsible for your data, nor intangible losses, right? So if you can't get a deal because you don't have that data, unfortunately, that is not their problem. So why SaaS protection, right? What are the things that happen that make it a need, right? So one is 1 in 3 companies will in fact lose some SaaS data. So 33% of these companies out there utilizing SaaS data will lose it one day, right? And that could be from a bunch of different items, right? So one could be from, data loss caused by malicious deletions, right? So that can be a rogue employee. That can be somebody who's on the way out of a company and they want to take their book of business with them, right? And they don't want you to have that information, right? So that's scary, right? Because that loss right there can lead to much more loss down the road. 13% of data loss is caused by viruses or hackers, and 47%, believe it or not, end user deletions. George earlier pointed out that the second biggest cost of downtime was human error, and it's true. Think about how many times you get a pop-up that says, hey, you're at 99% capacity, you need to delete stuff, right? And you say, all right, let me just delete all the old stuff, right? Just because it's old doesn't mean it's less important, right? So these things happen, and we need to make sure that in the event of it happening, that we're taking care of your data. If we jump to the next slide, right? So one of the other things that is fascinating as I talk to people around the country is that people think that just because your data is living in O365 or G Suite, that you can't get ransomware. But little do they know, there's a thing called ransom cloud. So 28% of MSPs no worries. 28% of MSPs have seen ransomware infections in SaaS applications, and that's up 2% from last year. 49% of those infections were from O365 and 22% were from Google Suite. So we talk about this thing called Ransom Cloud. And what Ransom Cloud is, it's a variant of the normal ransomware you would have on a traditional server or workstation. And it's pretty unique, it's pretty amazing, but yeah, it's pretty scary. So if you advance the slide, so this is how it attacks, right? So you have O365 and you're in and out of it. You're doing all of your emails, you're responding. One day you see something that says Microsoft Anti-Spam Pro. And of course it's from Microsoft because it has the Microsoft logo and it has Microsoft colors. And if it has those two things, then it has to be legitimate, right? So you say, you know what? I also hate spam. So I click on that, which then brings up this. This is like your last chance to kind of get out of doing something really, really bad, right? And most people, if they get this far, unfortunately, they're going to hit accept. So what this is saying, hey, I allow this app to be able to log in as me, to send emails as me, to be able to view my contacts. It gives you pretty much whomever sent that the keys to the kingdom. So I hit accept. I now get the full authorization. And now what do I see? I see a whole bunch of gibberish as I'm looking through my emails. I'm like, what's going on? I can still see the titles, right? I can still see the subject line. And so I can still see how important the emails are for me, but I can't read anything. Everything is ineligible at this point. Next thing you know, a pop-up comes, right? And this is where it says, hey, you have Ransom Cloud. In order to get your emails back, I need you to pay me Bitcoin. And the brilliance about Bitcoin is that Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency. And for those who aren't aware, one of the pillars of cryptocurrency is that it is untraceable, right? It's not like it's saying, hey, send me a Visa charge of $1,000 over here because you can trace that down. It's not saying, hey, send me a check because at some point you'd be able to trace that check. It's not saying it's delivered through the mail because at some point we'd be able to identify the address it was sent to and figure out who did what and have some sort of justice. But since this is so anonymous, unfortunately, there is nothing you can do but pay. And unfortunately, the criminals pretty much get away with this, right? So it's not necessarily, are you ever going to get hacked? Because more likely than not, as the criminals advance, it is going to be the case. But it's more so about like when, right? So you just want to make sure that you're doing everything you can, that if this was the scenario that you woke up to one day, you'd be able to say, hey, my friends at Valiant, hey, this just happened. And they'd easily be able to go get a backup version of your whole instance and be able to get you back up and running within minutes. So pretty cool in that regard.
Right.
We also have this as a video as well. So if you wanted to see every step of this, please feel free to reach out to the Valiant guys and gals, and they'll be able to actually get that over to you, and you can actually see this whole thing play out. Really, really crazy stuff. Really, really interesting, and it's really just good to be educated about what's out there and what not to click on and things of that nature.
Right.
So just to kind of see a quick version of what's happening. So this right here is your OneDrive, which is linked onto your computer. Something happens where you get a virus, but you've been pretty much backing up your OneDrive to the data SaaS protection. Let's go to the next slide. And then let's say that you get some sort of ransomware. This right here, many of you guys are probably like, what's this? This is from Saul, right? So if you saw Saul,
Scary.
the scary guy in Saw is this clown or puppet or whatever by the name of Jigsaw. And so they named a variant of ransomware after this guy, Jigsaw, right? So what you're seeing right now is another version of the alerts that you would get. Your computer files may have encrypted, your photos, videos, everything. It tells you everything is pretty much gone unless you pay. But because, once again, you've been working with Valiant, we're able to go right into our system, get the latest version of the backup of all that data, and get you back up and running as quickly as possible. And so, once again, it's very, very easy. It's for us to be able to protect you. It's something that you just have to realize that the most important currency you have in this day and age is your data. And the criminals know that, and they know that they don't necessarily care, how much it's worth to them. They care how much it's worth to you, right? And so they're going to monetize that and get the money from you guys. But that is all I have to share with you. But I would like to pass it on to Marianne and let her round third base.
Yeah.
Okay.
Excellent.
Thank you, Jason. And yeah, and if anyone has any questions on how to set up that SaaS protection, please reach out to us. You can visit us at thevaliantway.com. It's on every slide here. And just contact us, call us, email us, fill out a form. We'd be glad to help and talk you through how that could work for your business, no matter what the size. So one thing that we do want to hit upon is data protection awareness. It's important that even with having stuff in the cloud and having that stuff backed up, that everyone at every level of your company understands what their responsibility is in all of this. So some of it's really only effective if everyone is putting stuff in the right place and protecting the right information the right way. So this could be, you probably heard this back in the day when everything was on-premise servers, you still needed to save stuff to the server for it to be backed up. If it's on your desktop, it's good as gone if that hard drive crashes. Well, it's the same with the cloud. If you have something in Office 365 and you want to be backed up by SaaS protection, it needs to actually be in the cloud. It can't just be on your desktop. So it's really important that your staff understand how to store stuff, how to make sure that it's in the cloud, that those are your policies and procedures, but also to pay attention. We talked about privacy before, that some things need a different level of protection than others. So, there's going to be some data, like even if you just have HR data, that can't be shared with everyone in the company. So that's still part of your responsibility. And one of the best ways to get adoption of these policies, to get adoption of people actually doing the right thing with their data, is to have some sort of training. So your staff should be informed. They should have regular training at every level. Your part-time employees have access to some data, and your CEOs have access to a ton of data. So it's really important that you pay attention to those vectors. And that's something that we really like to emphasize, is to make sure that they're doing the right thing so that all this technology you put in place works for the best.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. And then we want to talk a little more about setting up policies and procedures. And George mentioned, writing it down on a napkin could be your only preparedness, but there are some things that you do want to pay attention to and set policies around. You want to set policies about where stuff goes, what stuff needs to be extra protected, and response procedures. Because like we said before, it's very likely that, it's more of a when than an if that there's going to be some sort of a breach, and how you handle that is going to affect how quickly you get back up and running. It's important to know in the plan which member of staff does what. So if you do have that SaaS protection, someone's got to set off the alarm and make it so everything gets locked down and that you can restore. If you're a Valiant client, you just give us a call and we'll get that started for you. But you need to know what your steps are for that and what each staff member's role is in those steps, both before a breach might occur to prevent it and after to recover. And basically, if you pay attention to that, you really want to have these procedures streamlined so that you can decrease interruptions. So you can make that 16 days of loss much lower. You don't have to be the average. You can be better than the average if you set up these policies and procedures.
Right.
So.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, Marian, that's really great. And Jason, thank you, Marian. And we really, it's putting it all together. There's so many different reasons why you have outages and downtimes and data loss. But you want to try to find each piece, each portion that you can solve quickly and cost effectively. And so using a combination of good technology like the SaaS protection platform, Datto, training, great business partner like Valiant, just kind of put it all together and you start like expanding and you start putting yourself in a much better, safer position. Once again, we put together some really great resources. I think that would be helpful just to kind of wrap your head around what some of the stuff is. We have some blogs, knowledge base, but the one thing we really want to kind of highlight is a really powerful downtime calculator that will give you exactly well, not exactly because there's no everything, but it's pretty accurate compared to that kind of a general number of the downtime. So you can plug in like payroll, run rate, that sort of thing, and give you an idea what it costs, what your cost is per hour. We also put together, we also have some links to the NIST Small Business Planning Guide, really useful. NIST is the National Institute of Standards and Technology. It's kind of the gold standard for cybersecurity in the United States. Most government contracts have to follow some NIST standards. and this one we kind of use as our go-to. Once again, we had some great training on our website. And with that, I just want to say thank you. This was really great. I really appreciate Jason. Thank you for being our guest today. It was great having you. Marianne, thank you as always. Great presentation. I want to say thank you to the Valiant staff. They did such a great job. We wouldn't do anything without the staff, without the team behind us or with us. We're servicing our customers and our clients. And with that, I want to say if you have a chance, please check us out on social. We're on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter sometimes, mostly not all the time, but mostly YouTube and LinkedIn, I'd say. Maybe Facebook as well. But there's some great content on there. We're on there. Yeah, we retweet things. Anyway, it's all on there, and we have some great live streams. So please like and subscribe. We have some really great, our next series that we're working on is around cybersecurity, a more detailed focus cybersecurity versus data protection, slight corollary, and it kind of comes together with a pretty robust cybersecurity webinar with our partner Scout Cybersecurity about securing your mobile workforce, which is something that is now looks like it's going to be going on for a lot longer, or maybe forever, because it's still over the kind of the genie's out of the bottle on working on a modern workplace. With that, I want to say thank you, and I hope everyone has a great day. So stay safe.
Thanks.
Bye now.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye now.